Hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of Hashnode podcast. Today we have with us Tracy Lee. Tracy is a Google developer expert with experience in Angular, React, Ember, Vue, GraphQL, JavaScript, and more. She is also the co-founder of This.media, This.labs, and a big presence in the tech community. Besides that, she also founded other companies as well, which makes her an expert in building companies from the ground. In her free time, she loves to give talks at conferences and do pair programming with friends. She has a deep passion for coding and a rich background, so we have a lot to learn from her. Before that, I want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly. So if I don't do it, please feel free to attention me. With that being said, can you tell us a bit about yourself? No pressure, anything you want.
Sure. I think you did a great introduction. I obviously don't do all the technologies all at once these days, but I love helping women in tech. We are hiring at this dot, which is awesome. We get to work on some really cool projects. And, if you're looking for a job or a change, just feel free to email me or find me on Twitter at Lady Leet. And if you're a woman in tech and you're looking for kind of help or monthly mentoring, we do monthly mentoring for free I think it's the last Wednesday of the month. So you can definitely check that out as well.
Okay, perfect. If you have some links and if you want, I can put them into the comments.
Sure.
So people can access them. So let's start with the first question. I'd be curious to see what was your career path and how did you become a software engineer, and then how you moved into tech entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I actually started in tech entrepreneurship. I grew up in the Silicon Valley, so I feel like, if you grow up there, you typically start a startup. And so I started a tech startup. After I did that and I was selling my company, I had a little break. So I decided to learn JavaScript. So I picked up JavaScript. I took a 3-week sort of, HTML, CSS, JavaScript course, totally fell in love with it. It was really fun for me. And then, I guess I just started speaking at conferences and talking about what I did and writing blog posts. And that was something I was really passionate about. I've always been really passionate about building communities. So in terms of helping build the JavaScript community and kind of bring more inclusivity into the community, that's what I try to do with my time.
Yeah, I love that. That's very important to make it a safe space for everyone. And I think you are doing a great job because I keep seeing talks from you on YouTube and on Twitter. So you're doing a great job. So with that being said, how does a day in your life look nowadays? Do you code these days, or do you have more of of an executive position, or what's your life like at the moment?
Yeah, so I used to spend all my time coding, and then it got to 50% of my time coding, and now it's just coding in my free time. Which makes me very sad, but I love to learn new technologies, mess around with things. And I think one of the things I find passion in these days is also helping people, business people, which I used to be, right, non-technical, understand the value or I guess like development generally, right? I think one of the things I would encourage any business people to do out there is just take a 3 to 4 week coding class, because you learn so much. You learn actually how to work with developers better. And I remember when I first started coding, I was like, oh man, I made a lot of mistakes, talking to my developers. So my day job, for those of you who are developers who are thinking about starting consultancies, as your company gets bigger, you get to code less probably. which is kind of the case with me. So my typical day is doing events, meeting people, and then also just doing, business stuff.
Nice, that's amazing. Therefore, which one is more exciting for you, solving problems by coding or running the business? Which gives you the most thrill?
Coding definitely gives me the most thrill. But you got to do what you got to do, right? Like if you build a company, there's things you have to do.
Yeah, that's for sure. So coming back to the business side,
Yeah.
let's say tomorrow you start from zero. What would you do differently in your path?
Like from coding or from building a company?
Building a company.
Building a company, what would I do differently? So this.labs, we kind of took, I'm all about building, an inclusive community, right? And JavaScript is JavaScript. So we actually approached it in a way that said, we're framework agnostic. We do Angular, we do React, we do Vue, we do Node. And I've always wondered, like, what would happen if we just focused on one technology? So would I do it differently right now? No, I would not. But if I had to start all over and start a brand new company, I would probably focus on one technology, and I'd focus on potentially building like open source products or tools for that one technology. Yeah, and see how that goes. Like it was the path we chose right, or was would the second path be better? I don't know.
This sounds interesting. Yeah. So with that being said, do you have any advice for people that want to go into this route? If I remember correctly, you said you started directly with a tech company. So,
right.
So what would be your advices for somebody that wants to start their business or tech startup or something like that?
Yeah, so I think the best thing to start with the passion that you have, right? So I think a lot of people, they struggle. They say, what should I focus my time on? How do I get into open source? What project should I contribute to? What product do I build that's going to be like the next Redux or, whatever, right? And that doesn't typically lead you to a place. I mean, it could lead you to a place of success, but if you look at most of the projects out there, the reason why they are successful is because it started from a place of passion. So for me, I never, meant to start a company. I actually told myself I wouldn't start a company after my last company. Startups are very difficult. They take a lot of time. And I was really excited about building communities. I was really excited about building brands within JavaScript. And I was really excited about how I could make an impact within the JavaScript community. For consulting, we just needed that to actually make money so that we could do our community efforts, right?
Yeah.
And that's how it started. Like, I didn't mean for it to be anything else. And, now we're a 50% consultancy. So it's the same thing with my last company. It was a food startup, and it started off with me loving to eat, me loving to share that I love to eat, and the different restaurants. And we started taking people on food tours. And then all of a sudden we were in 250 cities in the span of 1 year. And it was really crazy and amazing. But like, it started from me just liking to eat food and share that with my friends.
So it all starts from being passionate about something or trying to solve a problem you have in your life, maybe?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. You have a really impressive portfolio. I had a look on your profile page. So you're somebody I look up to.
Same. I totally look up to you too. I love what you're doing for the community.
Thank you very much. So obviously, like I said, you have a lot of experience. Can you recommend us or tell us what are some beneficial or must-have skills for entrepreneurship, especially in the tech sector?
I see a lot of entrepreneurs, and sometimes this might work and sometimes this doesn't, right? But typically speaking, I feel like entrepreneurship really does take a long time and a lot of effort and a lot of grit. So it makes me sad when people say, oh, I've saved up X amount of dollars so I can quit my job and do my startup full time. If you haven't figured out the business model yet and figured out how to get customers yet, then I typically don't recommend that because there's so many unknowns still, right? And you're risking a lot, right? For me, when I started my first company, I worked full time at another job until I finally figured out how to make money. And then immediately, it took me a few years, okay? But immediately when I figured out how to make money, I quit my job. So that is the advice I would give. Also, your first idea might not be the idea that sticks completely, but that's okay. It's all about iteration and figuring out what the market wants.
So this is the first time I heard this advice. So don't quit your job until your company makes money, right? Because, like you said, the internet is full of people saving money to quit their job and go on their business. So this is really something to keep in mind.
Yeah, because you just don't know. I think another
Yeah.
thing is if you can't make your company successful while you have a full-time job, it's very difficult to make it successful if you do it full-time, right? Like, again, some people do and it's fine, but I feel like you want to mitigate the risk, then try to figure it out while you actually still have a job. Or do a part-time job if you can as well. Some people do that too.
Nice. This is really interesting and something to note down. And I also seen on your portfolio page that you have degrees in business and marketing. And honestly, I don't know how you do all this stuff. I would like to ask which one is the most beneficial for you at the moment or during your career?
I think that going to college helped me develop my leadership skills or helped me understand that I was a leader. So I think that was really helpful. But I think this is like the same thing as people going to business school or going to school for computer science, right? Like, are you going to be better for it? I mean, you'll still be successful no matter what. But I think that what my degree in business and marketing taught me was structure and kind of how to formulate it, or like ideas, like basic concepts around marketing that everybody should follow. But honestly, it's not rocket science, like really isn't. And then, if you look at computer science, people with computer science degrees, probably one of the differences is just that they understand like high level conceptual concepts or architecture a little bit better than people who maybe came out of boot camps and like learn on the job. But again, it doesn't mean that, either way, right? Like it doesn't mean that whether you go to college or not, it helps you. It just gives you some structure that, might help in the future. So did my marketing degree help me? Yeah, sure. But I think it's definitely much more about real world experience as well.
You learn by doing. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter how much you spend in school or learning if you don't apply that. But I'm still interested about the business degree because
Yes.
this business world and everything looks like very complicated to me and stuff like that. So is a business degree kind of necessary to start a business and to do it properly, or it's more like tech where you can learn how to code for free and online and stuff like that? I'm asking this, maybe I'm ignorant, but like I said, this business stuff and world is very complicated to me.
It's very much so. I feel like that you can learn on your own, right? Like, it's very basic stuff. Like, for example, okay, you're in marketing. So who is your demographic? Who is your competition? How do you compare to the competition? What does a marketing strategy look like? Okay, you need to do, blog posts. You need to do Twitter. You need to do YouTube. Okay, you need to do these 3 times a week to do X, and here's the metrics around it. So all of those things, are also very trial and error, but that's kind of what business school teaches you. I'm sure they teach you more, but maybe I just take it for granted and forget, you know, because I feel like, again, it's just so, like, for some people it just comes naturally, right? Like for you, for example, you know, you're great on Twitter and YouTube, and you know why.
Thank you.
I think some people just like are naturally good at that.
Thank you very much. But in my case, I'm very afraid of this business world, running companies and something like that.
Yeah.
So, how about your marketing degree? What prompted you to do your marketing degree? Did you want to learn more about it, or is it something like passion? Or
No, when I was in college, I wanted to get out of college as quickly as possible. And out of all the business degrees, marketing was the easiest. So that's what I chose.
but I suppose it helps, right? Because you can be the best, or your company can be the best in the business if nobody knows about it. So
Yeah, I mean, I do love marketing, just in terms of, you know, because I think it, you know, you're bringing awareness to something, right? And that's valuable. But I also feel like I approach marketing in a very tactical way. So you talk to a lot of like marketing people, and they kind of know what they should do, right? Because with your traditional training, you know how to create a marketing plan. I think what makes people really successful, and I think, you know, some people refer to it as growth hacking these days, right? Is getting down to like being really tactical about how you approach marketing and understanding that. I think that's where a lot of value comes in.
Nice. By the way, I'm kind of interested in marketing as well. It's an interesting field. At least I like it. And I would like to know if you have any resource you can recommend. Did you come across anything on the internet you seemed like super cool and useful you could share?
You know, I think because it's like the opposite, right? So for you, you come from a place of development, so you're curious about marketing and business. For me, I'm like, oh, marketing's easy. I care about development, right? So I don't really read any resources on marketing or have anything, but I think that if you just buy a college marketing textbook and read it, that will give you the fundamentals you need, you know, to be successful. I think in some ways marketing is a little bit easier to digest and learn because it's not as complex, like from a high level concept perspective. It's not as complex as like probably some of the, you know, sort of some of the development concepts out there, right? Like if you go, well, I don't know, maybe it's the same. But, you know, is it easier to read a marketing book or a computer science book? I'd probably say the marketing book is probably easier to read.
Even though I didn't try, I agree with that.
Yes.
You are in these both worlds, marketing and development and tech entrepreneurship, and I would like to hear your opinion about this. Developers seems to hate marketing, or at least that's what I heard and seen.
Right.
How do you, or how can one do marketing effectively in the tech space, not to come across spammy or things like that, but to do an effective campaign?
I think that's why developer relations is so important these days, because I've worked with a lot of traditional marketers, you know, who have been CMOs of different companies before. And if they don't understand the development world, it's very hard for them to be successful because they just want to throw marketing at you, right? Because that works in other spaces. But I feel like in development, it's very important to just be authentic. So, you know, for us, we don't have like a sales team because it's really just talking to people. So is that marketing? I mean, somebody has to do it, right? So I just find it like, I don't know, talk to people, hang out with people, be authentic, right? Try not to have a hidden agenda. And I think that's like the biggest thing as well, right? Like you look at people who are like, oh, help me, you know, on the internet, or do this, do that. You have to first start by giving back to the community authentically because you want to. And if you give back to the community, then the community will also help you, which is nice.
Yeah, I love this answer.
Yeah.
So the answer is to cut all the fluff, be genuine, be authentic, try to help people and communicate with people. I love that.
Yeah.
And since you're doing so many things, I would like to know, how do you keep your work life balance, or how do you do it effectively?
Yeah. I think everybody needs something different, right? So you have to understand who you are and what you need in life. For me, I just block off time in my calendar, right? If I need, 4 hours of coding time, I'll block it off. If I need 2 hours to focus on a project, I block it off. And then, I try to save the things that I'm passionate about for the evening. Well, I mean, I do it during the day too, but like I try not to work on things I don't want to work on during the evening. I think that's important. I've started scheduling breaks in my day, so I'll try to take breaks every few hours. And, sometimes I might not take those breaks, but because I have it in my calendar, it gives me more, it's like more than likely that I will take a break, or at least remind myself to take a break.
So you really have a great willpower, because even if I block or say I'm not gonna do anything for a few hours, then I feel that itch to work and I feel like I'm missing out. But also I'm at the beginning of my career, so maybe I need to learn how to manage my work and my life better. And also, since I'm at home, I always feel like I could do a little bit more, because
Yes.
I live and work in the same place. So I'd be curious to see what is your experience with working from home.
Yeah, well, our company is a fully remote company, and it has been for the entirety of its existence. So we've always worked from home. But one thing that I think is really good, because sometimes, I get you, like you're working and you want to keep going, and then all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock and you haven't eaten dinner, right? So what I tend to do is like around 6 or 7, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go make dinner. And I close my laptop, and that break kind of forces me to like forget what I was doing. And then sometimes I come back to it, but sometimes I don't. So, that's important too. Like, not like, hey, I'm going to go grab food and go back to my laptop, but like grab food, eat, maybe talk to somebody, and then, hopefully it'll take your mind off of work.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do these days, because I used to eat at my desk. So checking Twitter, email while eating. So it was a really bad habit and I tried to cut it. So I fully agree with that.
Yeah.
And since you've built so many companies, I would like to know, what are your thoughts about a good culture at work for employees? This is a question that interests me a lot.
I feel like every company is unique in itself. Diversity in thought and inclusive cultures, I feel like, really matter. So, like, I don't know exactly how to answer this, but
I agree with that people should be diverse. There should be an inclusivity. People should be given the freedom to express their thoughts and to be themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think also, when I hire people, it's not just about hiring the same person. I always look at who's on our team and think about, okay, we have a lot of thinkers. Now we need some doers. Okay, we have too many doers. Now we need this. Oh, okay, we need more leadership. Okay, we have enough leadership. Now we need less leadership and more people that can be mentored, right? So I try to look at it holistically whenever we hire, to make sure there's a constant balance within our teams. And I think also just listening to teams, again, nobody's perfect. I mean, we're definitely not perfect, but I think as long as you continue to try and like want to improve and want to listen, then, hopefully that will make you successful.
I agree with that. I agree. Another interesting thing I've seen on your profile page, if I remember correctly, I've seen that you are into pair programming, and I I didn't do that a lot. I've seen a lot the term, but I didn't do a lot, and I would like to know how that can improve the skills of a developer. For example, let's say of the developer that it's less skilled than the other one. How does it improve the developer?
Well, I like to pair with my friends, and a lot of my friends are on core teams of different technologies.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that helps, obviously. I think it's just very, it's like things like, I remember when I was first coding, like, I was like, okay, why are there still errors being thrown in my code? And I was like, oh, you missed a semicolon here. And they could see it immediately, right? Like I couldn't. And so it's just kind of understanding like, oh, okay, that's what I need to learn, like on how to do. Or even when I first started coding, I didn't know how to indent my code properly. And just watching them fix my indentations so that they could spot the errors was like, oh, okay, I need to start doing this, right? Um, Other things like, figuring out how to, abstract away things in your code, right? Like, I think sometimes when you're doing it, you just do it the way you think it's supposed to be, but, more senior developers have better ways of doing it. So, understanding those types of things as well. Yeah, there's just like so many reasons why, but I think whether you're a senior developer or a junior developer, just learning from other people, right? Like, I was pairing with this one more junior developer, and they had so many like snippets and plugins, for their editor. And I was like, wow, this is really useful. I better start installing this. So it's like things like that.
So everybody can learn from everybody. It doesn't matter the level.
Yeah, and I think another thing is you learn how to explain your code and what you're doing. So being able to have a conversation about what your code is actually doing is something that you should not take for granted. You should be able to do that, period, because it just generally makes you a better developer and makes you better communicator, which is really important. And I think that, for those kind of like trying to get to the path of senior developer, this is very important. But good senior developers, I feel like as well, are able to explain their code.
Yeah, I should really do pair programming more.
Yeah,
Sounds super useful and even fun if you are doing it with friends.
absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the most fun for me.
Okay, Leslie, I want to talk a bit about this dot labs,
Sure.
your company. I've seen it a lot in the Twitter space, on YouTube. And can you tell us a bit about it? Is it a, I don't know, learning platform, an agency, or?
Yeah, so we actually have the company split up into two ways. We have this.media, and this.media was actually the first company that started. It was just, how do we help bring the JavaScript community together, right? So we do a lot of events. We've been doing, we have Vue Meetup, React Meetup. So it's vuemeetup.com, react.js angularmeetup.com, and graphql-meetup.com. And we do events every few months. So we'll do like state of Vue with the Vue core team. We'll do Angular contributor days with the Angular team, right? And basically, 30 to 50 contributors. We do this across all the different technologies, just kind of in a way, again, to build more inclusivity. So the thing I love about things like the, state of Vue.js is, where else can a developer go and just ask all the questions they want to Vue core team members, or understand like what's going to happen with the future of Vue? The reason why I love the contributor days format, which we have one coming up, a React contributor days, is that you're getting 30 to 50 people in a room and having really amazing conversations about like, hey, what's going on? What are my issues? What do you guys think about these new developments within the technology, et cetera, et cetera. So those are very exciting. And the idea of inclusivity, again, is that anybody can attend these. and participate in the conversations. So we like to make, like, again, open source a little bit more open to everybody. That's what we try to do. And then for the, this.lab side, we, again, just do JavaScript development. It's a team of about 50 developers right now. We get to work on really cool companies, like, right now we're working with Wikimedia, we're working with Cloudinary, we work with Twilio, we work with Google. So those types of things I feel like are just, fun. Like you go work on projects and be exposed to a lot of things. But I think also like our team is worldwide. And so it's like really cool to, meet people from all different regions and kind of bring everybody's ideas and cultures into our team.
Nice, that sounds amazing. And coming back to this dot media, to that part of the company, do you have a forum or something, or where do people talk?
Yeah, we don't actually have a forum. We basically just do it in the form of events. So if you go to this.co, you'll kind of see all the different events and kind of like all the different websites we have. So you can join them.
Oh, nice. So I finally understood it because I didn't know how people interact. So that's really cool. I'll put the links into the comments so more people can see it and maybe participate. And I think managing such a company that tries to put together communities and stuff like that can be very challenging at times. And I would be curious if you could share what were the most challenging times since building these dot labs or these dot media.
I think that in building any company, it's really about just realizing you have ups and downs, and you kind of have to roll with the punches and be willing to pivot. So anytime something bad happens, you look at it as an opportunity, right? And, being able to stop and just reflect as well, just doing self-reflection on, hey, what's working really well and what's not. I think as human beings, we typically focus on what's not working really well, greasing the squeaky wheel. And I think one of the things that is really important to do is to double down on what is working. So if you find something that's working, that's probably the thing you should focus on. And it's always true, and it's always what will bring you to success.
Thank you very much for your answer. And the last question I want to ask is, where do you see yourself in the company in the future, let's say 10 years or so? What are the goals of yourself or this dot media or these dot labs?
Yeah, I mean, I really love our vision right now. We really focus, like, we have these pillars called desire, and one of them is decisive purpose. And part of our decisive purpose is making the development world a better place, right? The more money we can make, the more money we get to spend on doing things like trying to create a more inclusive community. So, we get to invest our resources back into bringing on apprentices, trying to help them get their first job, kind of taking more risks in those types of community efforts. So yeah, that's something we get really excited about. I mean, we're trying to get to the point where we can actually open up a public mentor program where, our developers can, meet with people who want to be mentored once a month. That's something that I hope happens in the next year or so. So I feel like if we can keep doing that, then at every single level, right? Like, let's say we get to 100 developers and we're a bigger company, then all of a sudden we can do like way more for the community. And I don't know what that looks like exactly, because I don't know what we're going to be able to do or what 10 years looks like. But what I do know is that, like, as long as we're following our goals in life, which again is just making the development world a better place, then we'll be able to do amazing things together.
Yeah, I really wish everything works out because you are doing great things already and you are helping lots of developers. So I'm rooting for you, and I hope the mentorship program comes out as well, because it would be very helpful for junior developers especially.
Yes.
So I want to thank you on behalf of all the developers for creating such a community, for helping us, in one word.
No, I mean, I was just saying thank you. And also, uh, so many people have helped me along my journey as well. And, I try to do right by them as well, right? Because I feel like the development world is just so amazing. Everybody's willing to help each other, mostly. And there's just so many good people out there.
It is, and that's why it's important to give back, because at the beginning we only receive, and then we can give back when we advance. So I don't want to take more of your time. I really enjoyed this talk with you. I learned a lot. Like I said, you are someone I look up to, and I want to thank you personally and on behalf of Hashnode. And now, only if you want to add something, any advice, or I don't know, promoting an upcoming event. If not, it's fine, no pressure.
Well, I would just say, remember when you're on the internet that everyone is a human being, right? So, and nobody's perfect. So, be nice to each other, right? Like I've been seeing a lot of people get so mad, like, oh, this recruiter didn't call me back. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to do their job, right? But like, that is also a human being you're talking about. So don't get so mad. Like, it's okay. You're not perfect. And I'm sure when you make a mistake, you're not going to want somebody yelling at you on the internet. So, just be nice to people. Like, they're all human, companies are human. Humans are human. Your manager's human. Everybody makes mistakes, and, have some compassion because you're going to want that back, you're going to want that compassion.
It's so simple, it's so difficult for some people. It's very easy to be outraged and to point mistakes and bad things in other people, but it's good to look into the mirror and make sure you are perfect before doing that.
Yeah.
We are all humans, and we try our best to be as good as we can be. So I really love this part. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.